You wake up feeling drained, like the weight of the world is already pressing on you even before the day has started. Your body gets up, but your mind seems stuck in chains. Everything feels heavy. From your thoughts to your breath, even the silence feels overwhelming. You glance around and everything looks normal. Work is waiting. Your phone buzzes with messages disguised as opportunities, and the world is telling you, you've got this. Keep going. But here's something that might surprise you. You're not just tired. You're sick. And this sickness isn't just within you. It's in all of us. We live in a world where suffering no longer has a clear face. There are no loud bosses, no visible restrictions, no harsh penalties. Instead, there's something even more cruel. The invisible pressure to perform. You've become your own worst enemy. What used to be external expectations have now transformed into a constant whisper in your head. A voice that tells you to do more, be more, produce more. Don't stop, never stop. This is what Bung Chulhan calls the society of performance, a system that makes you believe you're free, but in reality you're more trapped than ever. You're trapped by the idea that every moment must be productive, that every action should have a result, and that every breath should take you somewhere. And if you pause, if you rest or fail, you feel like you've lost your worth. The culture of positivity has turned toxic. Freedom feels more like a set of handcuffs, and the ability to do everything has become a curse that leaves you unable to stop. Do you feel guilty when you're not being productive? Anxious when you don't reply to every message immediately? Frustrated when you fall short of your own expectations even when no one else is demanding it? This isn't just stress. It's not just fatigue. This is burnout. Not the kind that a weekend getaway can fix, but a deeper kind of exhaustion. The kind that leaves you empty inside while you keep up the appearance of being fine on the outside. And if this sounds familiar, it's not a coincidence. You're trapped within the system. A system that wants you to believe this is just how life is, but it's not. This video is not telling you to do more, but to wake up. Because for perhaps the first time, someone is telling you that you're not weak. You're simply trying to survive in a world that makes you sick when you try to be strong all the time. Take a deep breath. We're going to unpack this. And remember, you're not alone. For a long time, power came in loud commands. There were prisons, factories, asylums, places where you were told what to do, when to do it. Someone else gave the orders and you obeyed. Michel Foucault called this a disciplinary society where control was visible, direct, and physical. But now, that world is fading. What's replaced it is something far more subtle and far more cruel. Today, almost no one is telling you you can't. In fact, the message is the opposite. You can do anything. You are free. You have unlimited potential. It's all about effort, focus, discipline. On the surface, this seems empowering, motivating. But there's a hidden catch. When everything depends solely on you, every failure feels like your fault. This is the core of the performance society we live in today. The walls of this prison are invisible, but the goals are everywhere. The punishment is no longer physical, it's mental. And the one demanding from you is yourself. You've become an entrepreneur of yourself, as Bung Chulhan says. And what's the problem with that? An entrepreneur can never stop. They can always improve, always grow, always do more. This keeps you in an endless race with no finish line, no rest, and no relief. Have you noticed how even things like leisure have turned into goals? Reading used to be something you did for pleasure, but now it has to be productive reading. Meditation? It's a performance technique now. Exercise has become a requirement. Even sleep has become a challenge. You track its quality, measure your hours, optimize your routine. Resting is no longer a break. It's just preparation for more productivity the next day. You're not living anymore, you're managing yourself. And when you fail, when you get overwhelmed, get sick, or freeze, you blame yourself. Because no one told you what to do, right? You had freedom, you had choices, you just needed to try harder. But that's the trap. The new form of oppression lies in making you think you're the one doing the oppressing. Control has shifted. It no longer comes from an external authority, it's in your head. You're now the warden of your own prison. The walls are invisible, built with expectations, metrics, productivity, and self-demands. And breaking through these walls is nearly impossible because you no longer know where the system ends and where you begin. But if all of this feels suffocating, it's because something is deeply wrong with this model. It's unnatural to live in constant war with yourself. And this silent war is taking a toll on your mind, body, and soul. That's what we're going to talk about next. Because this exhaustion that weighs on you doesn't come from an outside enemy. It comes from within, fed by something that seems harmless but isn't. Excessive positivity. If this content is resonating with you, hit the subscribe button and join the community. Thank you for your support. You learn to smile when everything inside you is falling apart. To say, I'm fine, even when you're on the edge of breaking down. To appear in control, efficient, and excited while your mind and body scream for a moment to pause. And do you know why? Because we live in a new kind of violence. A violence that doesn't shout, doesn't force. It seduces. It invites. It motivates. It's the violence of constant positivity. Chulhan warns us the 21st century is no longer shaped by repression. We're no longer living in a time of censorship or rigid rules. What makes us sick today is not the you can't. It's the yes, you can. What erodes us isn't the old form of oppression, but the excess of stimulation, the false sense of freedom, and the overwhelming demand to stay positive. Now the order is to smile, to produce, to optimize, to be happy all the time. But this comes with a high price. Depression, ADHD, anxiety, and burnout are no longer rare conditions. They are signs of something larger. Societal symptoms of minds and bodies that can no longer handle the pressure of endless performance. And the cruelest part? In this new world, you don't just feel like a victim, you feel guilty. Didn't manage to be productive today? You blame yourself. Lazy? Unmotivated, lacking focus, nearing collapse, no gratitude, didn't do yoga, didn't sign up for the latest course. The blame is always placed on you. This is how positivity becomes toxic. It doesn't allow for limits. It doesn't accept failure. It rejects sadness, breaks, or slowness. And the more you chase this unrealistic ideal of perpetual productivity and happiness, the further you move away from yourself. You end up becoming a motivational caricature while everything inside you is crumbling. Positivity has become an expectation, an imperative. Everywhere you turn, you're bombarded with messages like, believe in yourself. Just go for it. Be your best self. On the surface, these messages seem harmless, maybe even inspiring. But in reality, they make you feel like you're never enough. You're always thinking you didn't do enough. You never allow yourself to rest because there's always something to improve, something to fix, something to accelerate. Your life is filled with goals, metrics, and constant comparisons. At work, on social media, even during your downtime. This constant bombardment of stimulation doesn't build you up. It drains you. It's like being on a treadmill that keeps speeding up. And the worst part? You feel like you're the one who turned it on. But you weren't born this way. No one was born to live in a constant state of tension. This lifestyle was created, and it's slowly emptying you out because underneath all the energy, the rush, and the productivity, something important is being buried. Something you've forgotten how to access. That's what we'll talk about now. There's a part of you that's dying, suffocated, ignored, neglected. And that part, maybe the one you've overlooked the most, could be the one that's capable of healing you. It's time to talk about silence, boredom, and everything you've stopped allowing to be part of your life. Have you noticed how in recent years, everything around you has turned into a kind of never-ending improvement plan? You're no longer just a person. You've become a project, an investment, a personal brand. Someone who needs to constantly grow, sell themselves, and reinvent. Not because you want to, but because if you don't, the world will erase you. It'll call you outdated, lazy, irrelevant. And here's the twist. This pressure no longer comes from a boss or an obvious authority. It comes from within. You've become your own product, and more than that, you've turned into your own executioner. As Byung-Chul Han calls it, this is self-exploitation. You no longer need someone to watch over you. You demand from yourself, you control yourself, you punish yourself. Productivity has turned into the new form of obedience. You think you're in control of your life because you have the freedom to choose, to create, to chase your dream. But what no one told you is that this freedom is a mirage. All paths lead to the same destination. More work, more pressure, more acceleration. Even what used to be sacred, your body, your mind, your relationships, your spirituality, has become an extension of your performance. The body is a machine to optimize. The mind is a tool for managing goals. Relationships have turned into networking. Spirituality is now about self-help. Rest is simply recharging for the next round of productivity. Even your free time is analyzed, maximized, monetized. You've turned into a company, and the only employee of that company is you. But no one can maintain this pace forever, and you're beginning to feel it. The overload isn't just physical, it's existential. You're everywhere but within yourself. You're always functioning, but you're never truly living. And deep down, you know that the more you try to fit into this ideal of success, the further you drift from your true self. Here's the question few dare to ask. What have you lost along the way? What did you leave behind while you were striving to be a better version of yourself each day? What did you silence? What did you set aside? There's a part of you that may not even remember what it's like to exist without having to justify your existence. In the next part, we're going to talk about this forgotten space, about the silence you avoid, the boredom that scares you, and contemplation, that rare and nearly extinct skill that could be exactly what you need to rediscover now. Because you weren't born to be just a cog in the machine. You were born to feel, to be, to simply exist. When was the last time you allowed yourself to do absolutely nothing? Not plan, not respond, not consume, not justify yourself. Just be, breathe, and let time pass without the feeling of wasting it? Perhaps you don't even know how to do that anymore. And that's not your fault. You've been trained to always be active, always available, always connected. Any pause is quickly filled by a notification, a new task, a short video, a motivational quote. I need to fix this first. Leisure has turned into waste. Silence has become discomfort. Boredom has become an enemy to be eradicated. But here's something no one talks about. Deep boredom is not a dead end. It's a portal. Chulhan explains that in the past, boredom was the fertile ground for creation, reflection, and true presence. It was within boredom that philosophy, art, and spirituality were born. Because boredom, the kind that lingers, the one that bothers you, that forces you to face yourself, opens space for contemplation. And contemplation is what brings you back to your humanity. Today, however, we live in a world of fragmented attention. We jump from one stimulus to the next, constantly on high alert. Multitasking is no longer a skill, it's a survival instinct. You watch a video while answering messages, while thinking about tomorrow's meeting, while feeling guilty for not doing enough. The present has become unbearable, and this mental hyperactivity comes at a price. It steals your depth, your connection to the world, to others, and to yourself. You get used to skimming the surface of everything, including your own emotions. You feel, but you don't dive deep. You reflect, but you don't truly think. You live, but you don't inhabit your own life. That's why you're exhausted even after sleeping, anxious even in silence, disconnected even in a crowd, because your mind has been trained to run, but it's forgotten how to stop. And stopping is not a weakness. It's a reunion. In silence, you hear what the rush has been hiding. In the pause, you realize how deeply wounded you are. In the emptiness, you rediscover who you are, without all the layers of productivity and expectation that have been piled on top of you. But this return to yourself requires courage. Courage to slow down, to face the discomfort of having nothing to do, to sit with the emptiness until it becomes fertile again, and above all, courage to say no to the relentless demand to perform. A concept that might seem strange at first, but one that might just hold the key to escaping the crisis we're all facing. The idea that not being able is a form of freedom. In this part, we'll explore why stopping can be the most powerful thing you can do, and why perhaps the true rebel in our era is the person who dares to do nothing. You've been conditioned to believe that freedom means being able to do everything, that the more choices you have, the freer you'll be. You've been told that the ideal life is one of constant achievement, movement, and autonomous decisions. But no one told you that this excess of freedom, this excess of choice, initiative, and power is in fact a prison, and it's one of the most hidden and dangerous prisons of all. The logic of society is straightforward. If you're not doing something, you're wasting your life. Everything needs a purpose, a result. Even rest must be justified as energy recovery. Even silence must be marketed as strategic self-care. Everything must make sense. Everything must be productive. Everything must yield something. But Chulhan offers us a radical shift in perspective. True freedom begins when you reclaim the right to not do, not act, not want, not be useful, to simply not be able to. It might sound counterintuitive. After all, we spend our entire lives striving to be able to do more, to travel, to produce, to achieve, to decide. But the power to do so has turned into an imperative. You can, so you must. But what if you don't want to? What if you can't? What if you're just exhausted? The response you get from society is clear. You've failed. In this model, there's no room for vulnerability, no space for saying no. Everything that doesn't fit into this cycle of achievement, growth, and action is seen as deviation, laziness, or weakness. But what if it's in that refusal, in that no, that true strength is found? Saying no is an act of power. Refusing excess, haste, and overload is an act of resistance. Not trying to improve all the time. Not accepting every opportunity, not following every piece of advice, not responding to every call. Saying no to the world so you can say yes to yourself. This is the true rebellion. This not being able. This is revolutionary. It shatters the logic of endless productivity. It destroys the myth of constant self-improvement. It gives back to the human being what has been taken away, the ability to exist without constantly proving your worth. When you allow yourself to say no, something shifts inside you. Anxiety turns into silence. Guilt transforms into presence. The rush becomes a breath. You no longer need to chase after yourself because you're already here, whole right now. But don't be fooled. This freedom is not comfortable. It requires confrontation. It forces you to look at the void and say, I accept not to be everything. I accept not to do everything. I accept to just be. And that's the hardest part. It goes against everything you've been taught. That's why so many people become sick trying to free themselves, not realizing they're just replacing one set of chains with another. The real challenge is not doing more. It's learning how to stop. It's being able to let go, to say enough, and to simply be. But when you begin to see no as a form of liberation, something shifts. A clarity emerges that was once drowned out by noise. A strength that doesn't come from pushing harder, but from surrendering. A peace that can only be found when you stop fighting against yourself. And in this moment, you come to a deeper truth, one that you might have already felt even without knowing how to put it into words. The burnout you're experiencing isn't just physical tiredness. It's the sign of a life model that's failing. It's a cry for help from your soul. If you're still here, it's because something inside you is calling out. Maybe it's quiet, maybe it's muffled, but it's there. You feel, perhaps faintly, that something is terribly wrong with the way we're living. And I'll tell you this, what you're feeling is not weakness. It's not an inability. It's not a lack of mental strength. It's a natural response to a system that demands the impossible, and then labels you a failure when you can't keep up. You're not failing because you're tired. You're exhausted because you've been forced into a life model that drains every ounce of your emotional, psychological, and spiritual energy. A model that has turned each person into a productivity machine, a showcase of performance, an avatar of success. And in this frenzied pursuit of an ideal of achievement that can never truly be reached, what's lost is the most important thing: meaning. Byung-Chul Han is clear when he says that burnout is not an anomaly. It's not an exception. It's the most visible symptom of a collective existential crisis. It's not the collapse of a few overly sensitive or disorganized individuals. It's the collapse of an entire social framework built on self-exploitation, the worship of efficiency, and the disregard for silence, leisure, and inner life. You are not alone. This pain you feel, this exhaustion that never seems to end, this emptiness you carry even when everything on the surface seems fine. It's not your fault. It's a cry from your body and soul asking for a different rhythm, a different perspective, a different way of being in the world. And this new way begins with a simple yet powerful decision: to refuse to continue living the way things are. Perhaps you still don't know how to get out of this. Maybe everything I've shared so far has touched a deep part of you, but you're unsure what to do with those feelings. That's okay. The first step isn't to act. The first step is to simply recognize, to feel, to allow yourself to look inward without filters, without defenses, without excuses. If any of this resonates with you, if this video spoke to a part of you that you didn't even know needed to be heard, I ask you to share your thoughts in the comments. Tell me how you're feeling. Tell me if this is connected with you. Because when we share, we find ourselves, and when we find ourselves, healing begins. Keep watching the next video, it's just as important as this one. Transformation doesn't happen all at once. It happens in layers, in conversations, in reflections that build up. And one day you'll wake up and realize you've changed. You're more whole, more aware, more free.